In the last year, I've sold over $2 million on Amazon, and I haven't seen or touched a single one of those products in person. In my Amazon business, I use something called a prep center, which allows me to be relatively location independent because prep centers will receive mine and they can also receive your inventory that you're purchasing from suppliers and then shipping it to Amazon on your behalf. There's a big misconception that I see with a lot of people getting into the Amazon space. They think they have to have a big warehouse, they have to have a big open garage or something like that where they can ship and prep all their inventory. So we're gonna go ahead and break down how you can actually find and work with these prep centers in your Amazon business. And for a lot of you guys, it's actually going to save you time and money to do prep centers, so you're going to want to list it up. Before we do that, if you're brand new to the channel, my name's Warner Fields from Fields of Profit. I'm a full-time 7-figure Amazon seller, and something that was really important to me when I started my Amazon business is to know that I was going to be able to outsource it to be a true business owner and not just buying myself a job. A lot of people, when we start selling on Amazon or just start new businesses, we end up getting trapped in shipping products and putting stickers on things, and that's just not something that I wanted to do long-term, and it's probably not something you want to do long-term either. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it and talk step by step what you need to do to start outsourcing your prep work for your Amazon business. So we're going to jump into the computer here in just a second. I'll show you exactly what you need to be looking out for. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is how to know if you're ready to get a prep center or not. Getting a prep center is something that I think a lot of beginners tend to rush into. It can be very exciting, the fully outsourced Amazon business. I don't want to have to do anything. But in the early days of your Amazon business, it's going to be really important to do a little bit of manual work yourself, especially doing your prep work sometimes. So let me break down what this decision should be. The first thing you want to think about is if you're paying sales tax in your state. Most of you guys probably are paying sales tax. When I first started doing online arbitrage, I was paying 9.75% sales tax. We were very profitable for several months without a prep center. So if you are paying sales tax, don't let that be a limiting belief that you can't make money doing online arbitrage. You absolutely can make money. But even back then, I probably cost myself a little bit of money because I did not go out and get a prep center in a sales tax free state. So for a lot of you guys, you're going to be paying 5-6% sales tax. So let's say you are buying an item that's $50. If you're going to pay 5% sales tax on that, you're going to pay $2.50 just in sales tax on that item. On the other side, most prep centers that'll ship to Amazon for you are going to cost anywhere from like $1 to $2 a unit. So not only can you ship that item to, let's say, Montana or Delaware, one of these tax-free states, not only are you going to be able to ship that to that state, pay no sales tax, but you're also going to pay less in prep center costs. So let's say you're paying $1.50 per unit at your prep center. You're only going to pay $1.50 on that $50 item, and you didn't have to touch it, and you didn't have to pay sales tax on it. So you saved $1 and you saved your own time. So it's kind of a no-brainer in that regard, that especially if you have a high sales tax state, it can be a good thing to go out and especially in, the next few months, the first few months of your business, just to go and get a prep center set up so that you can save on that sales tax advantages. The only thing I want you to think about when you are deciding whether or not you should switch to a prep center or not is just really making sure that you have a full understanding of the prep process. I wouldn't recommend outsourcing to a prep center before you've done at least a shipment or two yourself. You want to understand when your prep centers are doing a good job versus doing a bad job. Obviously, the caveat to that would be if you're an international seller. So if you're, in Canada or in Europe, Asia, wherever, you're probably not going to be able to, send a shipment into Amazon FBA if you're halfway across the world. So you probably would just have to jump straight in with a prep center. But if you are in the US, you should probably just send in your first shipment or two, manually do it yourself, learn the process, and then you can start thinking about getting a prep center. The other thing to think about before you go out and get a prep center, especially if you are sales tax exempt, is going to be the actual cost of that prep. So especially in the beginning, if you're super limited on capital, you don't want to be spending money trying to save your time when you're low on capital. You want to spend your time to stretch your capital, right? So if you're in the early days, you don't have a ton of money, you're trying to stretch it as far as possible, you probably shouldn't have a prep center unless it's genuinely saving you money in that sales tax example we were talking about. Otherwise, you're going to be paying money when you could just be paying time to stretch your capital further. So I want you to think about that as well. So now that you're actually ready to go ahead and get set up with a prep center, let's just go ahead and break it down a little bit. How I would recommend you go out and try to find a prep center for your business. So this is going to be a very variable process. I think the best way to find a good prep center is to find kind of a very small mom and pop type prep center. There's a couple reasons for that, but most of the time you're just going to want to have that better communication. You're going to want to have an address, especially if you're doing online arbitrage. You want to have an address that not a lot of other stores have seen. So that is the downside with some of these bigger prep centers, is that you can definitely run into some address bans and that kind of stuff. But let's just start hunting for a prep center here. So you can see here, I've just Googled Amazon prep center, and I might even add on to that. So let's just add a sales tax free state. So I know that Delaware is a sales tax free state. So from here, we might just want to see, go down the list and see which different prep centers we could go ahead ahead and reach out to. I would probably skip the sponsored results here. And honestly, I would probably just scroll down a little bit here, give it a couple scrolls there, and then we can start seeing, if any of these prep centers might be more our speed. So here's a prep center, Art of Logistics. This seems like it might be more for like private label or something like that. And they got eBay, Etsy, all that good stuff. They could be a prep center though. Let's check it out. FBA Prep Center, contact us. So it's got a little blank there. Really, I'd like to see where they're located. This is kind of a weirder one. We also want to see this right here. Seems like they might be more catered towards like private label, that kind of thing. So we might skip out on them. There's also going to be a bunch of like directories like this. So I think this one might be like a Pakistan domain, but these are US prep centers. So not exactly sure what's going on there, but this seems to be a big list of prep centers you can check out. The downside of this is that to be on this list, they have to be, decently sized. And so if you're looking on a list like this, you're probably not going to find that ideal mom and pop prep center that you might be looking for. But let's just go ahead and check out a couple of these here. So especially any of these tax-free ones, they're kind of sticking out to you. I might just go ahead and start opening up some of these. So here we got Delaware Prep Center. We know we're not going to be paying sales tax in Delaware. Just start to get a feel for what their fees are. So in this case, looks like you might be paying about $1.66 a unit if you are doing decent volume. If you're like a brand new seller, seems like these might be higher based on these pricing. Like I probably wouldn't go with these guys just based on the pricing. Seems like maybe a little more catered towards higher volume sellers. Let's check out a couple of the other ones here. So Prep Ninjas. I think I've heard of these guys before. So you can go Prep Services, FBA Prep, and some of these are going to have wait lists and that kind of stuff. Like a lot of these really good prep centers are going to have long lists. So this one seems a little bit more catered towards arbitrage sellers, right? So over here, if you're doing less than 200 units a month, it's going to cost you $2 a unit to ship in. That's decently high for prep costs. On the flip side over here, it looks like if you're shipping a decent amount, they're only going to charge you about $1.35. A lot of times there might be some extra fees to look out for as well. So if you are, let's say you really do a lot of shoes, you want to be on the lookout for that, especially 25 cents for shoes isn't too bad at all in this example. I've seen upwards of, an extra $1, $2 extra to prep a pair of shoes. So if you're doing any certain category, you want to think about that, right? So if you're doing oversized units, that's going to be extra. If you have to bubble wrap things, it's going to be extra. Makes sense that these things, they take extra work. They're going to take extra materials. It makes sense that they would cost extra, but these are the things you want to think about while you're looking for a prep center. And then really just try to find the best prep center that works for you, has good fees, seems somewhat legit. And then from here, it's just going to be starting to reach out to some of these different prep centers here. So let's say you wanted to contact these guys. You could just go ahead and let's see. So ready to sign up? Like they've got, instructions right on their website here. Right over here, contact us. It's probably just going to be pretty simple contact blank. You can call that phone number. Really, I would highly suggest you get on the phone with one of these prep centers, especially before you're going to ship a prep center, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of inventory. It's important that you can, trust them a little bit, that you've talked to them. Just say, hey, do you have, experience doing, XYZ? I sell a lot of this. Do you have any other clients who are doing that kind of stuff? Just talk about the kind of stuff that you're wanting to send. Make sure there's not any hidden fees for the type of stuff you want to send. Make sure you've got somebody's phone number at these prep centers. So as you're going through here, starting to talk to people, who's my point of contact, all that kind of stuff. You want to be really aware of what's going on at these prep centers because they're going to have all of your inventory, right? So I know a lot of people get a little bit overwhelmed by that, especially in the beginning. It can be kind of scary to trust somebody else with all of your inventory. So it's important to hop on. I've always hopped on a Zoom call with all of my prep centers beforehand, just chatted for 15, 30 minutes, something like that, ask them some questions, talk about their experience with Amazon and just get a feel for how competent they might really be, how many shipments they're doing, that kind of stuff. You really want to make sure that these people are going to have high attention to detail because they're, like I said, you're going to be trusting them with all your inventory. You want to make sure that if something says pack of 2, they're going to catch that pack of 2. So that's kind of stuff you want to be looking out for there. So in terms of actually going out and finding a prep center, there's not really much of a secret sauce, so to speak. If there was, I would show it to you guys. It's really just going to be a lot of digging through Google. If you do run into a prep center that's full, maybe say, hey, do you have anyone you can refer me to? That's actually how I find my current prep center. I was reaching out to random companies. I was 6 pages deep in Google. They said, hey, we're full, but there's this company that we've been working with a little bit. They're looking for some more clients. And that's actually who I still work with for most of my prep work. So anything like that you can do to go in and find those prep centers, absolutely take advantage of that. Hop on a Zoom call, ask them all those questions we were talking about. What is your standard rates? Do you have any hidden charges? Hey, I buy a lot from XYZ website. Do you guys get packages from there? That's something that was really important to me is, if we're buying from a lot of product from a few websites, we want to make sure that those websites aren't banning that address, right? So if you buy a bunch of product from Target and Target already knows that address, that prep center's address, probably don't want to be working with that prep center. So come to that call with a list of questions. If you don't have a list of questions, we threw one in the FBA roadmap. Check that out. Especially if you're already a member, might as well. And that's our step-by-step guide guide to Amazon, comes with a lot of other good stuff. And you can check that out down below. There's lots of other good stuff besides prep center questions, obviously. So the next thing we want to do is actually ship off inventory to these prep centers, right? So we've gone through the interview process. We know we can trust our prep center. I would recommend shipping them kind of a test batch of items. So whatever their minimum is, maybe it's 100 units, maybe, hey, we're just going to ship your inventory every Monday. Just give them a little bit of inventory to ship in. And then from there, try to track, how long it's actually taking them to receive inventory versus shipping it out. Make sure that they're actually delivering on a lot of the guarantees they provide. So some of them are going to say, hey, we'll give it to you and we'll get it received and shipped out in 48 hours. Make sure they're living up to that. And as you are adding inventory to these prep centers, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how a lot of these prep centers usually do things. This is very similar to what it looks like, where we're just writing down the name, the units, that kind of stuff. So like in the orange columns here, this is be a lot of what we would actually give to the prep centers. So we're going to write down the ASIN, the UPC, how many we bought, all that good stuff. And then when the item actually comes in, let's say you only got 9 units, they shorted you a unit, you want to be aware of that kind of stuff. So a lot of times this is going to be based on a Google Sheet. Kind of a quick time saver as well is going into, any of those items that you're sourcing. Let's say you found this item profitably for $3. Seems like it'd be a pretty awesome item. Just an example here. Something that saves me a ton of time is just using SellerAmp over here, punching in that cost. And then in this example, I've just clicked prep center. This is kind of my demo account here. So when we do that, we can quickly export whatever information we want over here. So we can export, like I have it set up to just export the name, ASIN, UPC, what my cost was and what my list price is. You could add a bunch of other things to that with SellerAmp over there. So I would take advantage of something like that, especially if it's all in a Google Sheet. This saves us a bunch of time. So then all you have to do is come in here and say, we bought 100 units of this. We bought it from, what is this, a vitamin? We bought it from Walgreens. Write down the date, whatever other information you want to include on here, because the prep centers are going to be pulling information from this Google Sheet. Sometimes they'll use like a listing software if you want to use that instead to store a lot of products. I personally prefer Google Sheets with a lot of mine. So you can restore any information you want on here. A lot of times as they're listing, they can store this information in your listing software. So in this example, they're going to punch in Walgreens. They're going to punch in the fact that I paid $3 a unit for it. And so I'm not going to have to do any of that back-end accounting work because they're going to have it all logged in my listing softwares already. And so now that you've found a good prep center, you're communicating with them. Usually it's going to be via Google Sheet. Sometimes they have like their own in-house softwares. Can't really prepare you for that here on video. If they do have their own in-house softwares, just have a conversation with them. Ask to hop on Zoom with somebody. Hey, can you just walk me through how you guys want things? But for the most part, a lot of you guys will be using Google Sheets here. So make sure you take advantage of that kind of SellerAmp trick. Another thing I would highly advise you go ahead and get set up, it's kind of a nugget for you guys, is just having something on these prep center spreadsheets. So very simply in this example, anytime something goes missing or, we receive the wrong item, something like that, there's going to be mistakes that these suppliers make. It's only natural. So let's say you bought this and they shipped you, the 200 count, right? We only bought the 120 count. That'd be a pretty awesome mistake in your favor, but that's not going to be on your prep center spreadsheet, right? So a lot of times these prep centers, if you don't give them somewhere to communicate those errors, they might just sweep it under the rug, not really talk about it with you. So just set something up super simple like this, where they can just scan the UPC in of the product. If it's not already on your original prep center spreadsheet, just say, hey, can you scan the UPC in here? Let me know how many units we have, and then just drop any notes, right? So this is exactly what we do with our prep centers. It doesn't have to be fancy. Hey, we received this UPC. It wasn't on your spreadsheet. There was 5 units of it. Maybe there's something wrong with it. The security tags are still on it, that kind of thing. Like anything you'd want to know, they might be throwing those notes in here. And then we would just go in here and add it to the next line. And then, in this example, they sent us the 200 count, the UPC would be there. I would add it to line 4. So, hey, it's on line 4. They would go in and just be able to list it from there. So it's kind of a more technical thing, but if you're not giving these prep centers a place to communicate the mistakes that are happening with you, then they're probably just not bringing them up at all with you. So make sure you have something like this so you can kind of stay on the same page and not, let products slip through the cracks. And after you do go ahead and add your products to that Google Sheet, listing software, whatever the prep center wants you to use, usually it's going to be very case by case on how often you want to ship items in. I would recommend having, a good line of communication with your prep center. So be aware of when they're going to send the next shipment. So some of them will say, hey, pick a day and we'll ship whatever has arrived to us on that day. The other side of that will be, hey, we'll ship a shipment in whenever you want, but it has to be at least X amount of units. So pretty common one is, hey, we'll do a shipment whenever you want, but it has to be at least 100 units. So just go ahead and communicate that with your actual prep center. And then from there, the prep centers usually are going to go ahead and list that item for you, especially if you're using a listing software. Just go ahead and add them to that account. Some of them will use Amazon Seller Central, but most of the prep centers are going to be creating those listings for you. They're just going to add all that information that you're storing on those Google Sheets for you. They're going to go ahead and label the products for you, so you no longer have to slap labels on products. You can use your time for the high value skill of sourcing instead of putting stickers on things. The other thing they're going to do is box it all up for you, slap a label on it. They're also going to need access to your Amazon Seller Central account. So you can give them like limited permissions. So all you have to do is give them access to like creating FBA shipments, adding products, that kind of thing. So don't worry, they're not going to have full control of your seller account. And you can give them limited control to just go in and create those labels, create that shipment. And it's something you're going to want them to have the privilege to do. Otherwise, you're going to have to go in and do the manual work. And it kind of defeats the purpose of hiring and paying a service to do the work for you if you're going in and still having to do, listing or printing out the labels for them and all that good stuff. And then once you get to that step in the process where they're just slapping labels on things, putting it outside, having UPS come pick it up, whatever they're using, congrats, you have a prep center. You no longer have to put labels on things yourself. And honestly is a very good time-freeing activity. Just don't rush into it, especially if you kind of need the capital. The hardest part of getting these prep centers set up is making that initial connection. So I want to give you a couple resources for that. Link down below, there's going to be a prep center that I actually still work with. I think if you use that link, you're going to save a little bit of money on your actual prep cost. That's with iLogistics down in Florida. I've been shipping some, some groceries, some vitamins, that kind of stuff, some stuff that's sales tax exempt in Florida to them. They've been awesome. It's a good kind of beginner friendly prep center if you want to get your foot in the door somewhere. And then I've also been working with a prep center who's looking for kind of higher ticket clients. So if you've watched this far into the video, you probably are not someone I'm talking to, but if you're doing like 20, 25K a month plus, send me a message on Discord. If you don't already have my Discord, you can just check out the free Amazon seller Discord below. You'll find me there. Just shoot me a DM and say, hey, I'm looking for a prep center. I'm selling, 20K plus a month. Please already be selling that. And I can go ahead and give you the hookup with a prep center. It's a little bit smaller, less clients. I'm looking for some more higher volume guys. So let me know if that's you and you're looking for a prep center. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and got a ton of value out of it. If you did, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. That would add some value back to my business for adding some value to yours. If you're not even sure where to start sourcing products in the first place, how do I even fill these prep centers with products? I'm going to drop a video right up here in this corner. Go check that out. I'll teach you how to source profitable products for your Amazon business. If you guys did have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to drop those down below in the comment section as well. I'm always happy to answer those, but I really appreciate you guys watching this video and I will see you next time.